Hello and welcome to CareerWise, the show that unashamedly gets on with your job. This week we take a look at the controversial subject of performance appraisals and examine how performance management is going to affect your career and your pay packet. We travel to Oxfordshire to see how performance appraisals work at the School of Head Teacher Susan Tranter.
It means that there is a very rapid turnaround of feedback and ideas, and so it means that we can all as a staff team be highly responsive.
And here to discuss performance appraisals in the CareerWise studio, it's a full house as we're joined by Mary Bousted from the ATL, Anne Jasmine from the GTC and John Banks from the NUT. And going from discussion to practice, one primary deputy head takes us on a performance management learning journey in East London.
So, will the new arrangements affect the pay of all teachers or only certain groups?
No, it will affect the pay of every teacher.
Performance appraisals are to become compulsory from September 2007 as part of the formalised structure of performance management. But how does it work in real life? The CareerWise team wanted to find a working model for performance appraisals in school, so we went to see head teacher Susan Tranter at Fitzharris School in Abingdon.
The main aim of performance management is about raising standards in schools, but it's also about creating the capacity in schools to manage change. The process is about setting targets, it's about looking at what progress a member of staff has made to achieving those targets, reviewing their performance in the context of their wider school effectiveness, and then agreeing some outcomes and some objectives for the following year.
My name is Ian Goddard. I'm the assistant head at Fitzharris School. The system of performance appraisals we have in this school I find extremely helpful, and I know that other staff value them as well, because it is very much a supportive mechanism in which targets are agreed on that fit into the whole school and are there to support and guide staff rather than be used as a stick to beat people.
I meet regularly with members of the leadership team, and you saw the meeting that I had this morning with Ian, where we were talking about some of his key areas of focus.
Ultimately, the aim is a system where every single student knows what their own targets are, what it is that they've got to do to improve.
We're having a constant dialogue, so I'm giving support to him, saying, yes, that's brilliant.
Well, it gives me clarity in my role, so I know specifically what I have to achieve in terms of fitting into the whole school objectives.
An attendance target of 95% this year.
Also allows me to give specific targets to my team to ensure that I'm going to meet my targets as well, and they like the fact that they know specifically what they have to achieve.
Performance appraisals affect me in many ways, I suppose. They're part of an ongoing dialogue I have with my line manager. What I usually tend to see them and view them as is a mark of a big steer for the year, for the ongoing year, for both my job and the role of my team. So it becomes the sort of the vision of the leadership team working its way through me, and I have to sort of try and develop strategies in order to try and see that through.
Kevin, are you clear about how we're going to move forward now as a school and what your role is there?
Yeah, much clearer.
Kevin would then meet with his members of his team and pretty much have similar meetings. Hello, Ian.
Hi, Susan.
And so that reporting line, then his team will feed back to Kevin, Kevin feeds back to Ian, and then Ian feeds back to me. Directress. Yeah. So how did it go with Kev?
Kevin's tried to do as much as possible to devolve responsibility down to individual tutors. So
it means that there is a very rapid turnaround of feedback and ideas, and so it means that we can all as a staff team be highly responsive. We've got 64% of our students, we want them to get 5 or more A stars to C at their GCSEs. We've got a 95% attendance target, and by working together we can achieve those goals.
Well, there's just a glimpse of performance appraisal in action. To discuss the issue further, I'm joined in the CareerWise studio by John Bangs, by Mary Bousted and by Anne Jasmine. Anne, what has changed about performance management in the last few years?
I think the issue from Susan Tranter's presentation there is there appears to be a real focus on performance targets for pupils, that teachers are being asked to articulate how they're going to meet those targets. I think one of the issues that we need to be quite concerned about is teachers' individual professional development and learning.
Mary, what's gone wrong in the past, and is there a utopian future ahead of us for performance management?
There's never a utopian future in education. What's gone wrong in the past is, I think, performance management or appraisal has been honoured in the breach rather than the observance. And one of the key things about the revised performance management policy, which is going to be coming into schools in September 2007, is that with the objectives has to be agreed at the planning meeting, the support and development which will enable the teacher to meet the objectives. And crucially, if the school does not provide the agreed support and development, then the teacher cannot be held responsible for not meeting the objectives. So there's a real requirement that the system starts putting CPD into the picture.
Sounds perfect, John Bangs. You couldn't have any objections to that, could you?
Well, let's have a look at what works in schools. Now, my problem with the current performance management system, the performance management system that's going to be introduced on September the 1st this year, it's very high stakes. And actually what you might well say to your reviewer may well be used either against you or for you in terms of pay. And that is a different kind of situation. You are going to literally perform in that situation to ensure that you get movement up the upper pay spine.
But the unions have kind of shifted, some of them certainly have shifted radically from a position of resisting performance pay to helping the government implement it.
Yeah, well, the government made it quite clear, the School Teachers Review Body made it quite clear that they wanted a system where pay was more closely related to performance. And obviously that was a big debate within the union, and then you make a decision. Do you actually go in and negotiate for best practice, or do you let the government do it? We believe you go in and negotiate for best practice. You get the outcomes for your members.
I wanted to bring in John here to give us a slightly different perspective.
Curiously, in this highly complicated new set of arrangements, there are no limits on the number of objectives set. There actually isn't a limit on the amount of classroom observation. And in fact, there's been a shift from the original draft on performance management, where it did posit the idea that you could limit classroom observations to the potential for head teachers dropping in ad infinitum and having a look at what's going on.
Can I just answer some of the points that John's made, because some of them are completely incorrect. The first point is there is a limit.
You think, Mary?
They are completely incorrect. The NUT latest thing says there's no limit on classroom observation for performance management purposes. That's wrong. There's a limit of 3 hours. And there's also a very important principle of proportionality. That is, a teacher with a lot of classroom experience who's doing very well may well not need 3 hours, may need an hour.
Well, I don't think, you see, I don't think the guidance actually, I don't think the guidance and the model policy actually does limit that. Mary's right about the limit on observation for performance management purposes, but there are two statutory requirements in the system, not one. One is for performance management, the other one is for monitoring teaching and learning, and there is no limit. Although rightly, I think, my colleagues in the other unions have said merge the two together, but there isn't any limit on the head teacher dropping in, or there isn't any definition about why you drop in as a head teacher. Have you dropped in to monitor teaching and learning, or have you dropped in for performance management purposes?
I mean, Anne, I guess you're standing somewhere uncomfortably in the middle of this debate.
No, I'm not actually standing in the middle. I'm standing in a very different place. I'm standing at the position of the teacher. I want to see a situation where every teacher has the opportunity to participate in CPD in a way which is effective, offers opportunities for sustained engagement, so they actually can try, practice, perhaps fail with a particular way of doing things, and learn from that experience.
And we haven't had an effective professional development strategy in this country. And I'm not sure we're going to get one yet, actually.
Well, listen, on that moment of rare agreement between all three of you, I want to say thank you very much indeed for joining us on CareerWise today. Well, whether you consider it an invasion of your professional privacy or another step on the career ladder at your school, it's good to know what performance appraisals actually are. We caught up with one primary CPD coordinator in East London, Laura Hure, who admits that she's not quite sure what performance appraisals actually are.
My name is Laura Hewer. I'm the Deputy Head here at Earlham Primary School and I'm in charge of CPD. I'm not sure about the changes to performance management arrangements and I'm looking forward to finding out more today. Performance appraisals have been implemented in universities for years. I've just arrived at the University of East London and I'm going to meet someone who can tell me more. I want to find out what Donald Ridley, an expert in work psychology, thinks of them from both a personal and a professional point of view. What's your experience of performance management so far in the university?
My own personal experience of being performance managed has been mixed. You'll spend some time thinking about, well, what should your targets and goals be for next year, against which, in theory, you will be assessed. Quite often they just file until next year and they come out of the cabinet again and people say, oh, is that what we said? Yes.
How do you think performance management specifically affects you and your staff?
I think generally it's looked upon as a bit of a bureaucratic task, which you get done as quickly as possible so you can get on with doing the work. We get into trouble if we don't do it, so all the boxes have to be ticked and that's a big pressure.
Do you think there are any positive things that you've learned about performance management that could be transferred to primary schools?
The very useful notion of appraisal systems has turned into performance management systems, and I think it's worth exploring that openly with staff, saying, you know, this is what we're being asked to do, but it's meant to be a positive experience as well, and it's meant to be one in which all stakeholders are actively engaged.
So that's been really helpful. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That was very interesting. It seems that there are similar problems in universities to schools with performance management. I think I'm off to get another point of view. I'm hoping that Rebecca Iambo at Newham LEA can explain what the recent policy changes will mean to teachers' pay packets. Can you explain the changes in performance management to me?
One of the biggest changes is that the reviewer is going to have to commend the reviewee's pay at the end of the performance management cycle.
Will the new arrangements affect the pay of all teachers or only certain groups?
No, it will affect the pay of every teacher. This isn't about penalising teachers or getting teachers to fail. It's about enabling them to really succeed in their careers and do the best for the children.
Do you have any suggestions about how I can make it effective in my school?
It's going to be very important for you to make sure that whatever commitment is placed on the school in terms of the dialogue continuing throughout the year, that there is the time for the reviewers to do that process with the teachers, so that the teachers don't get shortchanged in any way, that there is that open dialogue and whatever is said is going to happen does actually happen.
Thank you, that's really clarified things for me. You've answered a lot of my questions. Thank you for your time. It's been very interesting. I've learnt a lot. From Donald, I learnt that there are pitfalls in performance management shared by universities and schools. And from Rebecca, I've learnt it's supposed to be a positive experience to help teachers. And I hope that's how it will work in my school.
Well, sadly, that's it for this week's Career Rise. If you're feeling bereft and wanting more at this moment, let me point you towards our website for lots more information. The address is www.teachers.tv. I must say thanks to all the guests who appeared on this week's show, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again.